Hey guys, so just gonna make a short clip here on caffeine usage or supplementation and whether or not it can improve your athletic performance or not. So to get right into it, the benefits of caffeine can be, according to the Sports Nutrition and Performance Enhancing Supplements textbook by Abby E. Smith Ryan, Jose Antonio, that caffeine can improve endurance performance, including three different exercise trials, such as 70 to 75% VO2 max for 15 to 20 minutes, time trial performance, and through running or cycling to exhaustion. So those three different types of exercises have been conducted in studies, and caffeine was shown to improve performance in those different exercises. It can also improve endurance by increasing the amount of beta endorphins that are produced during exercise. So, and the beta endorphins can lead to decreased perceptions of pain. So those two are going to link together. Later on, we'll talk about some studied research on that. It's also been shown to increase the number of repetitions to failure in the bench press, the leg press, and the leg extension, according to one study. Um, so it was proven that the caffeine did help out in the muscular endurance portion of that study. And it was also been shown to increase cardiac output, stroke volume, and arteriovenous oxygen difference. So it's going to improve, it can improve your muscular endurance, your cardiovascular performance, and it can help you to, feel a little less pain or decrease your sensitivity to pain during exercise or athletics. Some disadvantages to caffeine, not a whole lot. Recommended dosage, according to the text, is 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. And the disadvantage to that is that anything more can lead to no improved performance in the athlete. And it can also bring side effects, including anxiety, restlessness, or headaches, lack of sleep. So this is going to be important to remember before using any caffeine. It's less impactful on muscular strength. So one rep maximum bouts. It hasn't been a whole lot of shown research that it aids in that. So maybe short burst of all-out strength needed. It's probably not gonna help you out if that's the type of sport that you're in, and it hasn't been shown to be beneficial to untrained individuals. So if you're new to the gym, if you're new to training or athletics, you shouldn't be relying on caffeine to help you out in your sports. So again, the type of athletes that can benefit from caffeine use, caffeine is one of those things that you got to play around with because each individual reacts to it differently. I personally can't even have a coffee after 12 o'clock or else I'll be up all night. Doesn't matter how much I do during the day, how tired I am. Any coffee in the afternoon and I am losing sleep that night. So, and there are other people who can drink coffee at 6 o'clock at night after dinner and be completely fine. So you got to play around, do a little trial and error. I wouldn't wait until right before sports to test that out. Um, Test it out outside of athletics and performance first and see how sensitive you are to it. Obviously, you're going to be more sensitive to it when you first try caffeine, whether it's coffee or energy drinks or whatever you're using. Um, so again, just be careful, play around with it, figure out what works best for you. But according to the text, it can be beneficial to strength, endurance, and power athletes. Um, and more specifically, some sports are going to include basketball, soccer, tennis, mostly the type of sports where you might not be going all out the whole time, but you're doing short sprints of intermittent sprints. Short burst of intermittent sprints. And we're going to talk about something close to that later on with some research. But in the NCAA, according to the 2018 to 2019 banned drug list, caffeine is right up there on the number one banned category, which is stimulants. So they don't give a dosage. So the NCAA does disclaim that it's up to you personally to figure out with your athletic staff, coaches, or anyone in the administrative side of the athletic department at your program, to ask them about the specifics on procedures, banned drugs, policy for your program, because it does say in the NCAA on the list that that is not an exact list and to not go off of that list, but that's the list that they have. It's just a general idea. So talk to your athletic trainer, your nutritionist, and a dietitian. Like I said, anyone in the administrative staff, your coach, anyone who would know this in your athletic program, and they'll be able to give you a more specific guideline on whether or not caffeine is safe or not in your program. So obviously there's been a lot of research done on caffeine and its effects on athletic performance. So a couple research articles to give you some statistical evidence. One study from the Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Science in Sports examined the effects of caffeine ingestion on rating of perceived exertion, or RPE, during and after exercise through a meta-analysis. So through this, they found that caffeine ingestion before exercise did reduce RPE during exercise. So, like we said earlier, because of those beta endorphins being produced, it's going to allow the athlete to push themselves harder, because it's decreasing their sensitivity to pain. So whether it's cramping up or pain from lactic acid buildup, pain from running or doing a certain athletic movement, whatever it may be, it's going to help the athlete just overall push themselves a little bit harder. So this is definitely something important to consider when deciding whether or not you as an athlete should be using caffeine. Another article from the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research studied the effects of caffeine on vertical jump height and execution in collegiate athletes, and it did find that caffeine did improve both vertical height and the execution of jumping. So with that, this could maybe mean that caffeine can also transfer to other ballistic tasks involving the lower body, such as agility, change of direction, movement, stuff like that. So again, another important thing to consider when thinking about whether or not using caffeine. One more article to give some more evidence from the Europe PMC, and a study examined the effects of caffeine on prolonged intermittent sprint ability in team sport athletes. So this is what we were talking about earlier with what types of athletes can use this. It was found that caffeine did significantly enhance performance of prolonged intermittent sport ability in competitive male team sport athletes. So that intermittent sprint ability prolonged description is going to include the sports we talked about earlier: basketball, tennis, soccer, even football. Those sports where they're prolonged, but you're doing short bursts of that sprint endurance. So, like I said earlier, guys, caffeine has a ton of pros, not too many cons, as long as you know what doses is good for you, whether or not your specific athletic program is going to allow it or not, and just making sure that you're speaking to a nutritionist or registered dietitian about this to make sure that you're using it as safely as possible. Thanks, guys.